In the last segment, I talked about what happens to a company that loses its culture of innovation. Companies are seeking what ways or what things they need to do to make sure that they don't lose that culture or that they create the right culture and become innovative. And the number one thing that companies resort to are resources. Let's throw more money at the problem, or let's give it more time, or let's build an innovation hub. I want to debunk some of those myths here in this segment. First of all, I want to show you these people. The one on the left, you probably don't recognize. That's Samuel Langley, Samuel Piedmont Langley. In the late 1800s, Samuel Langley was the head of the Smithsonian Institute. And he received a grant for $50,000 from both the Smithsonian Institute and the US Department of Transportation to build the first heavier-than-air manned flying machine, what we call today an airplane. He had access to the best minds. He had as much money as he needed and as many resources as he needed. However, on December 8th of 1903, after the last crash, he declared failure. But it wasn't more than 9 days later where the two brothers on the Wright brothers, on a budget of $1,000, successfully flew the first heavier-than-air manned flying machine. They had $1,000 while he had $50,000. How important is the investment? The Boston Consulting Group for the last 12 years or 13 years has ranked the most innovative companies in the world. They reached out to CEOs and they asked them and other executives and asked them to rank those companies. It is very obvious that there is one company that ever since they started in 2005, that is, ever since the Boston Consulting Group or BCG started ranking innovative companies in 2005, was number one up until 2017, which is the last year so far that they provided that ranking. That company maintained the first place, the top of the chart, for the entire period, and that company was Apple. Apple must have invested a lot in R&D to explain its level of innovation. Remember that the reason that you want to be innovative is that you want to grow your revenue and grow your profit. And if you remember, innovative companies make 6 times the revenue and 3 to 5 times the profit compared to the average company. Well, looking at Apple's financial reports back to 2005, in 2005 they saw a revenue growth of 68.3% in 1 year, 383% profit growth in 1 year. They almost multiplied their profit by a factor of 5. They did all of that with a 9.2% of R&D spending increase. So essentially, as a percentage of revenue, because revenue grew 68%, the percentage of that was spent in R&D actually declined. What happened in 2017, the last year of this report? The revenue growth was only 6.3%, less than a tenth of the revenue growth in 2005. The profit growth was only 5.8%. However, their research and development spending increased 15% in 2017 compared to 2016. Now, you might say, it doesn't happen in 1 year. And remember, one of the studies that showed the performance, the profitability performance of innovative companies, you can't expect that a 15% growth in R&D expenditure will show itself in revenue growth and profit growth in the same year. However, between 2010 and 2015, Apple grew its investment in R&D by more than 30% every year, every single year. In fact, in one of the years, I believe they grew their R&D investment by 39%. Between 2008 and 2016, every year they grew by more than 25%. So that begs the question, how long do you want to wait to see the results of a 15% or a 25 or a 30% growth in research and development investment? The bottom line is, it's not the research and development. I want to tell you the story of this garage that was located in 367 Edison Avenue. It belonged to a Dr. John Spencer, who later became the mayor of this city. But I want to tell you about Professor Frederick Terman in Stanford University. Professor Terman had two students, David and William. And he encouraged them to take an idea that they shared with him and start a company. Not only did he encourage them to do that, but he gave them an investment of $538 in 1938. Obviously, the first thing that they needed to do is determine what the name of the company would be, and they decided to name the company after their last names. But to decide which last name goes first, they flipped a coin. And based on that, William won, and his last name was the first in the company name. Otherwise, the name of the company would have been Packard Hewlett. Yes, that was the beginning of HP, and that garage is what's commonly known as the birthplace of Silicon Valley. And whenever you hear anything like garage ventures or start your company in the garage, this is the story that they refer to. But the reason I'm telling you this is because Professor Terman gave them an investment of $538, although in 1938. But when you take this number to 2018 dollars, it's merely over $9,000. Silicon Valley and Hewlett Packard started on an investment of just over $9,210. It's not all about money. Maybe it's about time. And Google was known to give their employees 1 day a week or 20% of their time, and this was known as the Google time or 20% time, to be innovative and be creative. In fact, when they filed their IPO papers, there was a letter from the CEO that stated that they're giving their employees 1 day a week to be creative and to be innovative. What not too many people know, but article after article after article after article, including the last one, mine, showed that not only that it doesn't work, but they don't do that anymore. Because giving employees a specific time to be innovative doesn't work. The same as building an innovation hub for them or an innovation lab for them doesn't work. What it requires is a culture. In my study, before I started the 2008 study, what I learned from previous researchers before me was that there was a correlation, a positive correlation between the amount of available resources and the level of creativity experienced by employees. However, when I did my research, I started finding that the relationship was actually opposite. And the more I dug into it, what I found was that the relationship looks like the chart that you see on the right, like an upside down U-shaped curve. You must have some resources. You can't really be innovative if you have nothing. It can be unofficial resources. The important part is that you have access to those resources, not necessarily that you have them in your hand. But you can actually have too much or too many resources. As some of my participants told me, there was a point where you had so much resources, so many resources in the mature company, that you didn't have to think too much. And it wasn't until that person worked in a startup company that because of the lack of resources or a resource shortage, it made him think and it made him more creative. In the next segment, I will talk about the relationship between innovation, technologies, and processes.